Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to another video, and today we're going to be checking out the iFlight TurboBee 136RS. Now this is sort of their largest micro. It's kind of odd to say largest micro, but I checked out the 120RS a little bit ago. Now this is sort of more in the lines of the Toothpick class. It is 2.5 inch. You can see it features a very thin design frame, 16 by 16 hardware with a nano camera. Not quite a Toothpick, it is still a 2.5 inch 120 millimeters, but it's definitely more along the lines of that. This is sort of its bigger brother. You can see we now have a 136 millimeter frame, and it's the plus version, so it has these braces here, which should make it a lot more durable. The motors are 1104 4200 kV motors, running the HQ 3x2 bi-blade propeller. And since it's 4200 kV, that means we're going to be running it on 4S. This is an iFlight 450 mAh 45C 4S battery. This does not come with the quad, but it is an option that they provide. Coming into the stack, we have the pretty similar 16 by 16 Sussex stack. However, this is the newest version. You can see we do have motor plugs there. It has the 4-in-1 ESC, the flight controller, and a VTX up top that can do 200 milliwatts. And then up front, we have the Caddx Nano EOS 2 camera right there, and of course we do have this blue 3D printed pod, which goes nice with the blue propellers. So let's just go ahead and get right into the flight footage. But real quick, I just want to say that the PIDs that come with this, I didn't find they were very good to start off. I was having a lot of prop wash and just sort of odd behaviors when I would punch the throttle. I think maybe this 3-inch blade might be a tad much for this motor, or maybe the 4S is just pushing a lot on this system. I don't know. It was just kind of stuttering at lower throttles. So I increased my motor idle to, I think, 7.4% from the 6% they have, as well as I just showed you guys the PIDs, and it flies much better now. Still not quite as nice. I'd definitely say something like the Emax Tiny Hog is flying nicer and smoother, but again, this does use tri-blade, so it's not exactly fair, as well as this thing does have the potential to go a lot faster. So if you can see from the flight footage here, one of the biggest things I think is the downside of the quad is probably the camera, the little Caddx camera. It looks fine to me. The picture looks good. However, if I'm going towards the double trees in the back there with the sun there, with the sun up top, it just is completely blown out in the goggles and I can't really see anything. It's just the wide dynamic range is not the greatest. The overall picture looks nice, but the dynamic range is not great. So you could definitely swap it out for something like the Foxeer Nano or the Runcam Nano if you wanted to. In terms of the video range, obviously if you see in the top left, I am using Clearview here, so that kind of skews the results because Clearview pretty much always has fantastic video. But the included little VTX, it is really nice. It does come with this whip. You can see here there is a UFL right here, so it would be really easy to change on a higher quality circular polarized antenna, for example, something like an Axie if you want. But I found the whip to be perfectly adequate, running on 25 or 200 milliwatts, which is something that's nice about this stack. You do have the option to do 200 milliwatts. In terms of range, obviously, if you didn't notice, I am using Crossfire. You can see the Immortal T down here. They have it just tucked up underneath on top, so it is a little bit of overkill. But since I run Crossfire in my transmitter, it's just really easy to just stay in the Crossfire ecosystem. And it is nice that the quad is available for purchase with FlySky, FreeSky, Crossfire, Spectrum, all those different receiver options. They change the price accordingly, and they do come pre-set up in there. So overall, in terms of the flight performance, I'm mainly going to be comparing it to the little 2.5-inch version. One of the biggest benefits of the 3-inch version here with these HQ bi-blades running this 450 4S battery is definitely the flight time. On the 2.5-inch, I was getting pretty low flight time running a little 2S 600 mAh battery. I was getting, if I was pushing it, around 2 minutes, whereas if I'm pushing this quad, I can get around 4 minutes. So I am getting double the flight time, but I am using a higher watt-hour battery, so keep that in mind, as well as the dual blades with a very low pitch are more efficient, but they do control a little bit less. So I feel like the 2.5-inch flew a little bit better. It was more precise and probably a little bit faster just because of the really high KV and aggressive gemfin propellers. So if I was flying in a small park area where space was very limited, I would say this would probably be my pick. But in my type of yard, where I definitely have a lot more room and it's suited for a 5-inch, flying with the 3-inch propeller and getting that extra speed was definitely very welcomed. in terms of durability, if I'm going to roll some clips here, I was actually extremely surprised with the durability. I smacked this thing into the shed above our picnic table where I was flying from, into our wood shed, into the ground. I just absolutely hit this thing like at 30, 40 miles an hour into solid metal and wood objects, and I really expected, with just, you know, how tiny this stuff is, I expected to bend a motor shaft, break the frame, but I have absolutely no damage. I didn't even bend a prop, which is definitely something to say about dual blades. When you come into the ground, they can just push away and the prop won't get hit. Whereas with a tri-blade, there's nowhere for it to go, so you're pretty much going to always be bending a prop. So in terms of durability, definitely gets a thumbs up on that. Let's just go ahead and weigh the quads real quick. The 136 RS by itself weighs 69 grams. If we put on the battery, it weighs 117 grams. Definitely not the lightest. And then here we have the 120 RS. Put this on the scale, it's 56, and with a 2S600 milliamp hour battery, we are getting to about 87 grams. So once again, not exactly the lightest in its class, but keep in mind we are running a full-size Crossfire receiver antenna on there, so that definitely does not help keep the weight down. So that's pretty much going to do it for the review. There's not too much else to say. In regards to if I recommend the 120 versus the 136, as I mentioned earlier, if you have a smaller space, definitely the 120. If you have a little bit of a larger area, but you still want to keep in the micro form factor, I think this 3-inch is very nice. I was a little bit disappointed in the flight performance. Just, if you watch my line of sight video, you can definitely hear the motor stuttering at really, when I was at low throttle and I punched it really high, which is why I changed my motor idle to like 7.4%. It just kind of happens at odd times, and when it does happen, it just takes away from the flight performance, because otherwise it flies really, really nice and tracks well, but when it happens and you just get that extra stutter, it just makes you a little less confident. I did not have that problem at all with the little 2S version on 1103 motors, 10,000 kV with GemFan props. So I'm not sure if the motor is overpowered or just running 16, 17 volts through these motors is just a little bit too much for them to handle. I'm not quite sure, but it's still not perfect, and I'd say something like the Emax Tiny Hawk is probably the smoothest flying and most relaxing little micro to fly that I have. However, this 120 does come pretty close. That's going to be the end of the review for the iFlight TurboBee 136 RS, and I included the little 120 in here as well since I've had that for a while. There'll be links down in the description below if you are interested, as well as I'll leave links for the line of sight flight that I did with the 120 and the line of sight that I did with the 136 if you want to check them out, and so you can hear how the motors sound and just see how it performs overall. I'll also leave a link in the description to my Patreon if you wish to help support the channel and these types of videos. Thanks for watching, please subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.